What's good, people? Welcome to another episode of Premier League Unpacked. This is episode 26, 4 shy of 30. We're past the quarter of 100 mark. We're getting there slowly but surely. Thanks again for joining us. I am the City Zone, myself, Bish, joined with the man himself, the creme de la creme, Mr. Premzy TV, my guy. I know that it's been a hard day for you. We're coming off the back of a tough result for Arsenal in Europe, but we're going to try not to dwell on that, keep the energies high and get back to the Premier League content, which is still got you guys sitting pretty at the top. So hopefully I can put some good vibes back into you.
But I need it. I need it.
But other than the result, how are you feeling? How are you doing in general? Good to see you as always, my bro.
Nice. Likewise, bro. You get me. Fucking first of all, big up to yourself as well, man, because it's a hard task to stay committed to something like this. And big up to yourself. Never ever skipping a day. You get me. Always there. But yo, bro, I'm all right. You get me. I'm not gonna lie. The Arsenal defeat, yo, it sent me west. You get me, because this season, man's not being used to feeling like this. You get me, as you said, top of the tree. And bro, I need cheering up, fam. I need cheering up. That's what I need. Let's talk about Tottenham.
We'll get there. We will. We'll talk Tottenham. We'll talk Liverpool. All of the fun results from last weekend. We'll look forward to next weekend. Hopefully Arsenal can bounce back and keep things pushing forwards. But definitely we'll find some good stuff to smile about. I mean, to be fair, let's start there. Like you said, let's start with last weekend's results. Maybe let's go to Liverpool first. I know you're itching to get to Tottenham, but we'll give them a bit more time when we get to them. Liverpool losing 1-0 to bottom of the table, Nottingham Forest. Marcel is going to be glad that we're not live because I'd be going at him straight into the comments.
And you know what the baddest thing is as well? Yeah, he jumped onto the live on my watch along, yeah, and he was trying to give it me about Liverpool going to be coming for Arsenal. No, you get me. So when you hear this, Marcel, yeah, you better make sure you're leaving them comments, my bro. You get me?
Yeah. Hard times for man like Marcel and Liverpool. I mean, it was really interesting. I'd like to get your thoughts on the game in a moment, but it was funny, you know, after that City Liverpool game, how much media positivity and kind of optimism there was around Liverpool. It's like the talk on everyone's lips was like, Liverpool are back. Liverpool, is this the start of Liverpool's run to, are Liverpool still in the title race? I even heard that conversation knocking around. Like, people were really ready to get behind Liverpool after that result. And even myself, I was worried about what they might have been able to do, how they might have been able to carry that momentum forwards. But then they stumbled through the next game, really, kind of dragged themselves through that next result, and then it carried that same bad form into the Nottingham Forest game and lost against a team who were, you know, right down at the very bottom of the table. So not good signs for Liverpool. You would hope that they would have, as a Liverpool fan, you would have hoped they would have been able to get some momentum going, but clearly not. What do you think went wrong in this game, and what do you think is going wrong in general over there?
Do you know what it is with Liverpool? I feel like it's not been going for them all season. And I think that game against Nottingham Forest, they've come up against bottom of the table team who everyone's expected Liverpool to win. And that expectation of Liverpool to win kind of got them in that game because they didn't have an answer for Nottingham Forest, really. Nottingham Forest, for me, played them off the park towards that back end of the game. They could have scored another 1-2 goals and finished them off. But for me, I keep banging on about it, Bish. I think Liverpool fans are trying to put a little dampener on it. But I think Sadio Mane being out of this team, had caused massive detriment. As we've discussed on many other shows before as well, the lack of depth in that squad, the age in midfield, you get me, the performances of Trent Alexander-Arnold defensively, Van Dijk not being at his fully best. You can see that it is happening, whether that might be because they were fighting on all fronts last season and it took its toll. Maybe they're demoralized that they were come so close to the title twice and they just haven't managed to get over the line in recent years. It's a bit of a shit show in certain situations. I think Liverpool are more of a cup team right about now. I can see them going on and doing something in the Champions League because on the day they can beat anyone, as we've seen with Man City. You get me?
in the League Cup, you know, something like that. One of that might be their competition this year, the League Cup or the Johnson's Paint Trophy or something like that.
I won't be surprised, bro. You get me? I think
Yeah.
you're mad, man. But you know what? Yeah, with Liverpool, yeah, I think they just need to just focus on themselves first of all and try to get themselves back to the best Liverpool that they can. Because putting all joking aside, they have been a very good team for the best part of 4 years. You get me? Just
Yeah.
give me a moment there because
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
doorbell's just ringing.
Yeah.
1 second, Bish.
The food has arrived. Premsy's been active on. Go ahead, bro. Premsy's been active on the streams for the last 3-4 hours now. Watch alongs, reactions, pre matches, all of that. So I was glad to be able to drag him back for a Premier League unpack, but he needs to sustain himself. So food is at the door.
Exactly. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
hang fire until my
Yeah.
man opens the door one time. You
Yeah.
get me, and
Yeah.
starts chatting Pierre shit at the door. You
Yeah.
get me, and he start
Yeah.
hearing it on the stream.
Are you Premsy? Are you Premsy TV? Yeah, no. I mean, I don't know how early we are in the stream. Whether it's too early for me to swear and start messing up the algorithms. Can I let it fly? Yeah. You know what? It made it more satisfying watching him losing after Klopp was just being a little bitch and talking shit about Pep and City and the owners and like all of that whining that he was giving it before the City Liverpool game. It just left a bad taste in my mouth, and I'm just glad that they got spanked up by Nottingham Forest because I feel like he's been trying to get his excuses in early. Like he seems rattled, and I was going to ask you, do you think that all of that nonsense that he was talking before the City game about when they asked him about Haaland and he was like, oh, well, no one can compete with City and no one can do it. Do you think now, looking back on that was maybe him a little bit rattled, a little bit feeling like he can't compete, knowing that his team aren't good enough this year, and like I say, starting to draw for the excuses early?
No, I agree. I think it's a little bit of hating as well. You know what I mean? You know, when you're not in the position to go out
Mm-hmm.
there and buy who you want and you're not getting that full on backing, it's a bit of sour grapes. You get me?
Yeah,
Because in certain situations, yeah, with Liverpool, they've been right at the top for a number of seasons now. Maybe they haven't won
yeah,
the Premier League every season, but they won the Champions League, they won the Premier League. You get me? So you gotta just take it as it comes, I believe, because clearly they haven't recruited well. Who is
yeah,
that down to? Is that down to the manager or is that down to the owners? You get
yeah,
me? And for me, I think he's putting a bit of shade onto the owners, trying to put a little bit of pressure onto them, and maybe that's the way he does it. Put it out publicly.
why I say that he was bitching is because, like, really, especially this window we've just been through, what he was saying don't even really make sense. Like, they went out and spent £75 million or whatever it was, £80 million on Nunes, and City got Haaland and Akanji for almost less than half of that. Akanji was 15 million, 15 million. City got Akanji from Borussia Dortmund, and my man is looking like an absolute Rolls Royce back there for City.
Do you
So
know what
for
it is
me,
though with
that's what I
City?
mean. It's just hate, big hate. That's the vibe I was getting.
Use add that depth to the squad, like with Alvarez coming in, Calvin
Yeah.
Phillips coming in as well. Like maybe you haven't splashed the cash in. Well, you have on
One
Grealish, but
signing. I get
yeah,
you.
but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not like it's been spread around. You get me, and it's
True.
looked like Guardiola's actually. It's crazy because what Guardiola does is very rare that you see every other manager do. He builds teams whilst his team's still winning,
Mm-hmm.
which is very, very unseen. You get me? A lot of people start building when the team started to fall off. And I
Yeah.
think what Klopp's starting to realize as well is that, oh shit, maybe I should have done that a couple seasons
Yeah.
back now. Maybe I should have
Yeah.
looked at replacing Milner, Henderson, these kind of man. You get me? And if we're just talking on it, bro, right now, Liverpool, yeah, getting beat by Nottingham Forest, that is not good at all, innit? Now,
Yeah.
Dave
Nah,
give
not good at
Nottingham
all.
Forest some belief now when they play us on the weekend, innit? That's all
Yeah.
I know. So,
Yeah.
fucking hell, man.
Well, that's one
Liverpool,
way
man.
of looking at it. And the other way of looking at it is that Forest would have been hoping to get 1 point, 2 points, at best 3 points from these two games. They've got 3 points from the first of those two games. Obviously, they're going to be carrying that with a bit of confidence into the Arsenal game, but maybe in the back of the mind, they know that they kind of might feel like they can almost afford to lose that game against Arsenal because they're not expected to win it. They weren't expected to win either of those games. So they're already in the bonus with having picked up 3 points against Liverpool. So it could go either way. I don't think Arsenal will have any problems against Forest. They could prove me wrong, but I don't think that Forest have got the quality, and I don't think that Arsenal are ready to wobble in the way that Liverpool are doing. But yeah, I just wanted to have a little moment, first 10 minutes of the stream, to just enjoy laughing at Liverpool, because it definitely left a bad taste in my mouth what Klopp had to say. So more of the same, please, Nottingham Forest, and you know, hopefully we can see Liverpool drop into the bottom half of the table. Speaking of other big games, we had Chelsea and United, and then we had Tottenham with a big loss to Newcastle. Where do you want to go next? Should we touch quickly
Definitely
on United?
touch on. Yeah, well, I was going to say definitely touch on Tottenham because I'm ready to jump all over them. But we could touch on.
I can tell you want to dig into Tottenham. So why don't we just fly over Chelsea United? Because I didn't think there was too much to say in the game, but I know you've been quietly impressed with what United are doing. So I thought I'd let you get that off, and then we can get into Tottenham.
You know what, bro? I have actually been impressed with what United are doing. I think Ten Hag has come in and he's put a system of play in there. You can clearly see now there isn't just hitting hopes and can't string two passes together. They are looking like a dangerous team. And to be fair, they've took the scalp off us. They took the scalp off Liverpool this season. You know what I mean? They've gone to Stamford Bridge and got a draw when on the back of, I think, Chelsea keeping 5 consecutive clean sheets and playing well as well. So you got to give them guys some credit. You know, I think with Ten Hag, it is going to take time. I think this season you're going to see bumps in the road, 100%, because he hasn't gone out there and brought all the players that he wants. He's going to take him a few windows to get his actual squad, and it's going to be a little bit different to Ten Hag at Ajax, I think, because now he's got a bigger budget. He can actually go out there and look at the quality that he really wants and goes and buys. And I think the future can be bright with Man United. The thing is, they need to just get rid of Ronaldo now. You get me, bro? Because I was an advocate of Ronaldo playing because I still think he has a lot to offer, even at this age. However, the way he disrespected his teammates, unbelievable, mate. Absolutely unbelievable. And rightly so, he didn't go to Chelsea, because the manager and the club, they have to show players that it ain't that time. There's not one player bigger than a club. So, touching on the game, I think Chelsea, they were a little bit, I would say they were fortunate to get the draw. I think United had the better of the game. I think United, that first half was total domination from United. They could have easily went in there 1-2 up. I think Chelsea came out in the second half and decided to play a little bit and match United. And that penalty decision from McTominay, you get me, man, rugby tackling man in the box. Do you know what I'm saying? So they got fortunate with that penalty. But United did what they needed to do. Casemiro, showing now his quality, managed to get them back into the game and get a point from Stamford Bridge with a fantastic header. So all in all, bro, I think it was a boring game if I was to really touch on it. But I think United had the best of it. I think it wasn't really that exciting. But for us, perfect result. You get me? I wanted them to draw. You know what I mean? Both teams dropping points. So happy days, man.
Yeah, I mean, I ain't got too much to add to that. I don't want to give too much credit to United unless I really have to. But I think I got to agree with you. I think it was less the result that was impressive about that Chelsea game, and like you say, it was the performance, because now that's 4 points from Tottenham and Chelsea, but in both games there was long periods where they outplayed the opposition. Do you know what I mean? There was long periods of the game where they looked like the better, more dominant, almost more mature and experienced side, even though they've had less time with their manager than Tottenham have. Obviously, they've not had as little time as Potter's had at Chelsea, but it's been impressive. And I think the other thing is, I agree with you that Ronaldo needs to go. That's the best thing for everyone involved. But I must say that at the start of the season, I was saying my forecast was that Ronaldo and the Ronaldo situation was going to make the whole season unravel for United, and if they didn't get rid of him, it would only be a matter of time until his presence caused problems. And you know what? Fair play to Ten Hag. The way that he dealt with that situation with Ronaldo walking off the pitch, I think kind of put some of that doubt that I had, or that probably some United fans might have even had, to the side, because he was respectful, and kind of calm and quiet, but also firm in how he dealt with it. And there's a lot of talk around the club that he'd gained a lot of respect from the other United players from that, and probably showed Ronaldo and has showed Ronaldo with all his decisions in recent weeks that I'm not going to bend to your behaviour. Do you know what I mean? And
It's a sign of a good manager, ain't it, really? Do you
it
know,
is
somebody who's got his own mind, strong-minded, and he's not going to let somebody who's clearly been one of the most successful players in the world, if not the
overrun him.
most successful, just, yeah, take the piss out of him.
But strong-minded, but not reckless either. Because
Yeah.
Mourinho's strong-minded, but then Mourinho might just come out and cuss someone out in a press conference. Or Tuchel was strong-minded, but was reckless at times. And I
He
don't
seems
think,
very honest as well, Ten
yeah.
Hag, when he in his press conferences. He just says it as it is.
But United have needed that. They've needed someone that's honest and that is strong-minded, as you said, but also has tact and has the ability to take attention away from situations, to drain the energy and emotion out of situations, because United are a big story, a big conversation, and everyone is always looking for the next explosion and the next implosion.
Yeah.
And he keeps draining he keeps draining all of that hype out of the conversations so that there's less focus on him and the team and what's going on. So fair play to him.
I must just say quickly,
Yep.
Jadon Sancho, pile of shit, mate.
That's interesting because I'm
Man are trying to
still,
tell me he's better than Saka. Come off it.
United fans are in love. I know a lot of United fans that are telling me that he's been their best player this season. So it's a weird one. I don't think he's looked. He's not attractive the way that he plays at United. He's a bit weird and a bit clunky at times. But United fans are telling me he's effective. So I'll have to watch him with a closer eye. And
Yo, they need to
make my
wipe
own
their
opinion.
glasses, fam. I tell you that much for free.
They're going to say they need to wipe their ass because of shit. A lot of them, they're joke. No, but yeah, fair play. Let's get on to somebody else that's shit. Your rivals from across the road, Conte's Tottenham. I keep coming back with this same question for you. Are you glad that Arsenal didn't take Conte when he did? Did you just dodge a bullet, or is this not Conte's fault? What's going on?
Do you know what it is, Bish? I feel like it's still too early to tell with Tottenham, because the one thing you got to give Conte is he hasn't got all his players in. He's been there just this season. You get me? It takes maybe a few windows for a man to develop his proper team and take it from there. But what we are seeing from Tottenham, bro, the style of play that they're playing with is absolutely diabolical, mate. I'm telling you now for a fact, yeah. Like, they just don't look like an exciting team to watch. There doesn't look like there's no flair about them. And now, I said at the start of the season, with Tottenham, it's going to come to a point where you're going to get seen, you're going to get found out. Playing like that, you get me? There's only so much that you can do just grinding the results out. But when you come up against better footballing teams, they're just going to put you to bed. And credit to Newcastle, obviously, because Newcastle, bro, since Eddie Howe took over, they've recruited very smartly. You get me? I don't think they've gone out and, like, maybe they spent like 200 million or something, but they've spent it right. You get me? They've not just went and spent 200 million on one player. And you can clearly see there's a philosophy at Newcastle. There's a belief at Newcastle. I think the players themselves now, knowing that there's so much money around the club, is give them a different kind of lift as well. You know, players are going to want to get better contracts and stuff like that, incentives for themselves.
Yeah.
But when you deep the situation, bro, Tottenham, they shouldn't really be getting beat by Newcastle on paper right now, especially in their development with Antonio Conte being their manager. So for Tottenham fans, it must have been an absolute devastating result. You get me? For me, perfect. You get me? Because obviously Arsenal dropped points against Southampton. Referee was an absolute wank stain in that. You get me? I swear down. Yeah, but see him, he's getting clapped up. Robert Jones, what a joke of a ref. But it wasn't so bad because, barring Man City, everybody dropped points. So Tottenham, same old Tottenham, Spursy. I just hope now that they could get knocked out of the Champions League, you get me, come into the Europa League and we give them a spanking in that, because after yesterday's performance as well, you know what, it was a bit shady for him, to be fair. I'm not going to lie. Like, that goal, that basically they scored a goal right at the death, Harry Kane. And from my understanding of the rules, I thought that it was a goal that stood, because for me, Emerson Royale headed the ball slightly back to Kane.
Yeah.
But also on the way to Kane, he hit a defender as well. Yeah. So it was a bit mad. They celebrated like they've just qualified and it's all a mad thing. And then 4 minutes later, back down to the ground, Antonio Conte getting sent off. So
Yeah, it's
I
problematic.
just,
I mean, we'll have to do another episode called Champions League Unpacked because it's been a mad Champions League this year. I can't believe that Barca haven't qualified. There's a lot of crazy
yeah.
stuff going on. But I mean, I ain't got much to add on the Tottenham front, but on the Newcastle front, I think you made a really good point about the incentive for players that were already
Mm,
there to really step up the game. Because there's a lot of players, there are some players in that squad that have been brought in that are like established top quality players, you know, your Bruno Guimaraes, your Kieran Trippiers, guys that have been there at
mm,
top clubs or if not been there at top clubs, had the attention of top clubs already. But then there's also other players in that club that until this takeover happened, we might have said, oh yeah, they're a decent player over there, but we weren't thinking that these were top 4 players, top 5, top 3 players. Do you know what I mean? We weren't thinking these were
mm.
Champions League players. I mean, just to while we're on it, just to piggyback off what Callum Wilson had said in an interview this week. He'd said that Newcastle, the feeling around the squad is that Newcastle would be disappointed if they qualify for the Europa League this year and don't manage to get the Champions League. Now, he wasn't saying that. I think it was taken a little bit out of context in that he wasn't saying, you know, we wouldn't be happy to get the Europa League. But I think what he's saying is we've got a sniff for the Champions League now, and that's what we
Yeah.
want to do. That's what we want to experience. And we know that it's a strange season and a lane has opened up for us. So, you know, there's players, even like a Callum Wilson, top player. I've always thought he was a top player, but until now, I'd never thought of him as a Champions League player. But a lot of these players, to come back round to what you were saying about incentive, I don't think it's just the money that they know might be made available. It's also some of them knowing, look, this is a project that's only going in one direction.
Mm,
And for some of us that weren't brought in as part of this project and were already here, if we can't prove that we are of that quality and are developing and growing as players, then as the project grows, we'll just get left behind. We'll just get shipped on. You know, for a Callum Wilson, unless he's able to be an instrumental part of Newcastle getting into the Champions League,
mm.
then will he get a shot to play in the Champions League? I don't know if Tottenham, Arsenal,
And you know
United,
what?
Chelsea are going to go out
It's a
and buy
good
him.
point. That it's
Do you
a
know what I mean?
good point. Good point, because you got to think about it. They already brought in Isaac as well.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, he's been injured for them, but he's been
Yeah.
a striker that has been, very sought after from a
Yeah.
lot of the top European teams.
Yeah.
It's come with a big price tag,
Yeah.
and Callum Wilson's going
Fading.
to definitely want to step up and show my
Yeah.
man, look, you ain't the main guy here. If you want to take
Yeah.
my spot, you're
You
going to have
fight
to
for him.
really come and take
Yeah.
my spot. And another thing as well, Eddie Howe, good coach, good manager. The players like Miguel Almiron, you get me, that your boy Jack Grealish tried to slate up as well. The guy stepped it up now and's answering critics. You get me?
Yeah.
Then you got to look at Joe Linton. He moved him from a striker, bro, into a midfielder. And
Phenomenal.
what a revelation that's been, bro.
Yeah,
You get me? This
phenomenal. Joe
guy's been,
Linton, Joe Willock. There's a lot of players in that squad that, like I said, you weren't thinking about them as Champions League players, but week in, week out, we're looking at them. We're looking at the way they perform. At this point, it's no longer a fluke, and it's no longer just a good feeling, because that can happen. We've seen
hmm,
that before. Even we've seen that this season. A team and a club and an environment can get a good feeling about it, and it can carry you through a few games. It can carry you through a big result, and then eventually it fizzles out. And sometimes, you know, a team that's got a good feeling going on around it can ride that out and beat teams that are better than them. But you see on the pitch whether if that's a team that are just carrying that energy through to the win, or if it's a team that are really playing a consistent style of
hmm.
football that's continually being effective. And that's what I'm seeing with Newcastle.
And do you
They've
know
got
what
a
the maddest
style of
thing is as
football, and
well?
it's working against top sides every single time. It's Chelsea, it's Liverpool, it's Arsenal, it's City, and now it's Tottenham. Do you know what I mean? This
Do you
is
know what though? The maddest thing
gone.
is, Bish, as well. They're doing all of this, yeah, grind, getting these results, having these
Mm-hmm.
performances with arguably without their best player in Alex Saint Maximin.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, people are forgetting about this guy as well. Like, when it comes to the Newcastle, I don't really hear many people talking that he's out. And
Yep.
for a player of that quality to be out and have that much influence on the team and no one to be speaking about him, it just shows you it's good signs to come for Newcastle. It means other players are
100%.
coming in, stepping in, stepping up to the plate. And you know what, bro? Newcastle are going to be a team that you have to watch and take serious
Yeah.
this season. You have
Do
to.
you, do you think that they've got enough? I mean, I'm not going to ask you whether they will get top 4, but do you think they've got enough there that they could make a real push for it?
I think they can make a real push for it, 100%. I don't think they will get it. Obviously, I won't be surprised if they got it, but I don't think they will get it just due to the top six quality of knowing how to kind of grind out the final stages of the season and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But if you
World
said
Cup.
Newcastle got top four to me now, I wouldn't be gobsmacked at all because you can clearly see they're on the cusp. We've had it with a few
Yeah.
teams over the years as well.
Yeah.
West Ham,
Yeah.
Leicester, when they've
Leicester.
been on there,
Leicester.
Aston Villa
Yeah.
years ago, Everton under
Yeah. Yeah. Moyes. Yeah.
Moisey. You
Yeah.
get me?
Yeah.
So we have seen it, but the difference is, like you said, bro, the money that's involved now, the incentives that are in play, it's only a
Different.
driving force for them. You get me, bro?
Well, while we're on the talk of money, and we won't stick with Newcastle too much longer, but I know that your thoughts with Arsenal have been and I presume still are. Let's get through to the transfer window. Let's get ourselves in a really good position in the league going into that window, and then let's double down again. Let's spend, let's strengthen, let's add more to give us another push to get through to the end of the season. If you're Newcastle now and you've got to where you are today, with this squad, with a lot of guys that were already there that are performing well, with this real team chemistry and this kind of steady approach that they've had so far under Eddie Howe and since the new ownership has come in, do you go into the January transfer window and spend and add and try and capitalize on where they're at now, or do you avoid trying to upset the balance and let things run as they are?
Do you know what? It's a good point because there's a danger of, like you said, going out there and upsetting that balance. But at the same time, for Newcastle, if they're in the best position that they've been in for a number of years, it would make sense for them to go out there and maybe grab one, two more quality player because now they're an interesting opposition for people that are going to want to join Newcastle. They know
Yeah.
that they're going to get decent money. I think Eddie Howe's that manager that's quite smart to not just go for a player that's after money and is got a bit of ambition about himself.
Yep.
But if you're a player now in the world of football, you're looking at Newcastle and thinking that's an option. That
And
you
a
know what
really
I mean?
positive option because it's not just about the money, it's not just about the potential or the intention, it's about the pattern of what you see in there. Like there's a lot of good signs all around that would suggest that this is going to continue to move in the right direction. And fair play to Eddie Howe, because you know what can happen when a team is being built up and when money's being pumped into them. You can have like a lot of transition managers. Do you know what I mean? So City had it.
Yeah,
We had a Sven Goran Eriksson. We had a Mark Hughes, a
Pellegrini.
Mancini, a Pellegrini, and each of these managers. I mean, in fairness, Mancini and Pellegrini obviously won serious trophies for us, but they were still really, now when you look at us today, a lot of them we went through quite a few transitions of managers that took us from 12th to 9th, and from 9th to 7th, 6th, from 6th to breaking into the champion. Mark
Yeah,
Hughes's task was really him pushing to try and get us into the Champions League for the first time, and then after him it was like we're pushing to try and win a league for the first time. So I thought maybe with Newcastle there was going to be a bit of that Eddie Howe, because remember when Eddie Howe came in, Newcastle were in a relegation fight.
yeah.
So I
They didn't
thought,
win. They didn't win like none of the game, 15
yeah,
games or something mad like that, innit?
amazing. So a lot of us thought probably that Eddie Howe comes in and the aim for Eddie Howe and during his era is going to be stabilise us as a Premier League club, get us top 10, round the top 10, middle of the table mark, get us set steady there, and then we can build and then get a better manager and build on from there. But if Eddie Howe carries on like this, there's no reason why he couldn't himself be the guy to just lead this project for the next 10 years at
Bro, I
Newcastle.
agree with you. I definitely agree with you because he's a very young manager as well. He's got miles in his tank, and he seems very well respected, not just by the players in Newcastle, by also the English media as well. And a lot of the time, bro, English media, as we've seen with Unai Emery, can fuck people over in a different way. You know what I'm saying? And obviously, I will touch on Unai Emery a little bit later on,
Yeah.
or we could even touch on him next if you fancy it.
Yeah.
But I agree,
Well,
bro. I think Eddie Howe, what he's done to take them from a relegation scrap, bring
yeah,
in the players that he's brought in, have the level of consistency within performance. And the one thing people forget, yeah, Newcastle's fan base is massive, you know. You get me?
huge.
Like, they're a massive fan base and they're a very loyal fan base as well.
Yeah.
These guys have been suffering for the best part of 14 years with Mike Ashley or something like that.
At
And they
least.
had no money pumped into the club or
Yeah.
anything. And they've still
Toxic.
stuck at it, always filling out the grounds. Last season, bro, Arsenal went there and we absolutely just shit the bed. You get me, bro? Like we've fucked up Champions League hopes and aspirations right there.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I've not been to a stadium yet that I thought the atmosphere has been better than Newcastle. So they've got something good. If they turn that into a fortress, Goodison, not Goodison Park, what's it called? St. James's Park.
Yeah.
They're all right. I think they'll be good. It's just they got to try to focus a bit more on the away form. But like we've seen, they've done Tottenham over. You get me? They play well against big teams.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Well, I'll tell you what, we will get on to Unai Emery, but as we transition the conversation over, I want to open it up a little bit wider, and Unai Emery will come into this. But just piggybacking off what we were saying about Eddie Howe and Newcastle maybe giving him a longer term project period of time, I wanted to ask you, there's been quite a few managers that have been sacked this season. On a few occasions, it looked like maybe some of these managers have been sacked quite early or quite harshly. Do you feel like clubs and owners are jumping the gun and sacking managers? Well, first of all, does it feel like, and are managers being sacked quicker and more ruthlessly now than they once were? And two, do you think that is a good or a bad thing from owners? Do you think the owners need to be giving managers more time, or is there some sense in, if they're not doing well, get rid of them, get another one in? What's your thoughts in general on the situation?
Do you know what? Yeah. See me, I'm quite an impatient person. You get me? But at the same time, I'm also willing to grow and develop and admit when I'm wrong at times. Now, with our Arteta, personally, finishing 8th twice, not qualifying for Europe, bro, man was very frustrated. I couldn't see anything past that. But obviously, that's why I don't run the football club. You get me? That's why I'm sitting here talking about it. I don't run the club.
I love
But
that.
you can clearly see that Arsenal's owners, the board, they've given Arteta that time. And now you're starting to see the fruits of that. Now, it looks like Lampard was going to get sacked as well from Everton. He's starting to now develop a little bit more of a better Everton side, a bit more of a stable side, And I do think that Chelsea have set the tone for managers getting sacked real quick and real fast. You get me? Because they've sacked managers rapid, but at the same time, it has worked for them.
They've had success.
So I believe that,
yeah.
So I believe a lot of clubs do look at stuff like that and think, well, if they can do it and it's worked, are we going to just be staying in this situation for 6-7 months and the fans getting on the back of us and this, that, and the other, and the feel good factor around the club just absolutely disappearing? So in my personal opinion, I would give managers a bit more time. You get me? Because one thing I've learned is we've give Arteta time and it's starting to see some good signs now. You get me? Eddie Howe, like you said just before, this guy as well. For me, I feel like Bournemouth should have given him a bit more time. I think they chopped him pretty hastily. No, this is Bournemouth when they sacked Eddie Howe.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Oh, 100%. That was crazy. After
I think
all that he'd done there as well. That was
definitely, bro. Even Dyche, Sean Dyche at Burnley, he was there running the club for a number of years, kept him in the top flight with no budget. You get me? They chopped him. Where are they now? You get me? Relegated. So you got to understand, I think it is becoming a modern era of football now, where there's a lot of media that have a lot of influence, a lot of fans have a lot of influence in people's decision making. But ultimately, it's a results-based business. You can't just. I agree that you got to give him a bit of time. But if a man's losing 7-8 games on a bounce, you get me, and it doesn't look like there's no style of play, then I think for the owners it is a bit of a difficult situation because they want to win in it, or you want to look like you're at least competing. Do you know what I'm saying? It looks like Tottenham also, they sacked Nuno after like 3 months of being in charge. I think Wolves have gone through about 4 managers. It's crazy. So if we touch on it, Steven Gerrard as well, bro. I feel like Stevie G should have got a little bit more time at Villa. Personally, I don't think he helped himself at all with the players within the squad. I think him taking the captain's armband off Tyrone Mings and giving it to McGinn, I think that caused a little bit of unrest and unsettled between the players, whether players wanted to play for him or not. maybe that's just lack of experience as well. And what I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you, Bish, as well, do you think that managers like Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, managers that have been very good players, do you think they should be taking tough jobs pretty much off the cuff? Or do you reckon they should be earning their stripes, going in the championship, learning how to manage, learning the development, and then maybe moving to a big club? Because otherwise, we're just going to see a long train of man getting chopped.
It's a hard one. I'll start with your question, and then we can work back to some of the stuff you touched on earlier. I mean, it's a tough one because if you look at Pep went from Barcelona B team to Barcelona first team to best one of the best managers in the world with very little um, transition in between. And whilst on one hand you could say, well, work your way up in the championship, get some experience managing, there's also certain experience that probably doesn't transfer over that well from the championship to the top flight. Do you know what I mean? Especially now as the gap between the championship and the Premier League is getting bigger and bigger. I think one of the things we've seen with Gerrard is that a lot of the stuff that he'd learned or demonstrated with Rangers actually didn't transfer that well to the Premier League. So I know that Rangers was only one job. I know that that's not the same as him working various jobs in various different leagues and picking stuff up. But sometimes the flip side of that is sometimes maybe there is a bit of learning that you have to do in the top league, the top players. So it becomes a bit of a tough 50-50 in that sense. I think that in Gerrard's case in particular, I think he really now needs to go somewhere. And I think an amazing move for Gerrard, if they'd have him, would be to go and work under Klopp for a few years at Liverpool. To step back from being in a managerial role for
It's
a
a
year
good
or
shout,
two,
that, bro.
go somewhere where he can be under someone that's going to give him a different level of tactical understanding and awareness. Because what we started to see with Gerrard at the end of his time at Aston Villa was they had a very particular style of play, a quite unusual style of play. It was very narrow. Everything was coming through the middle. I think I said on one of the previous episodes, it felt like he was almost trying to translate who he was as a player into management, and it didn't really work very well because he wasn't that type of player. He wasn't a Vieira that had this kind of expansive presence on the pitch and understanding on the pitch. Gerrard was quite direct in a way, and that didn't seem to work for Aston Villa. And as it started not to work, I didn't see signs that he knew how to adapt and evolve that squad to get past that. And I think he started to run out of ideas. And I've heard Jamie Carragher say as well, another thing with Steven Gerrard is that whilst he had a pretty phenomenal career, in terms of top managers that he played under, there were actually not that many. His top two managers that he played under probably would have been Gerard Houllier and Benitez, who, no knock to Benitez. I'm sure Liverpool fans will tell me what he did, and what he achieved in Europe and elsewhere. But these are managers that were very defensive. Your cat is agreeing with me. I can hear in the background. But the managers that were very defensive, the managers who haven't, Benitez hasn't been that successful in recent times. So maybe his style of play hasn't carried with the times as well as you would have liked. And I think that he was lacking insight and understanding. Whereas if you look at Lampard, who has had hard times in management and hasn't done the best at all times with Everton, how well he did at Chelsea is kind of debatable. I think he did quite a good job. Other people think he didn't do that great. But Lampard, not only as a player, do I see him as someone that had a more broader
mindset.
Yeah, but also he played under a lot of different. That's one of the benefits of having played at Chelsea under the Abramovich era. He played under loads of really good managers
as well. I agree, but we can't take away the fact that you need to learn and develop. You get me? Because if you're deep in a situation, Pep Guardiola's an exception. Because if Pep Guardiola walked into a Barcelona team that wasn't the best team in the world, it could be a very different situation for him. You know what I mean? Realistically, and I'm not trying to throw shade on Pep because he's quality, but you got to understand he did go from the B team, he went into the A team, and he had the best players in the world around him, which makes life a lot easier, especially when it's all clicking anyway. So with like the likes of Gerrard, Arteta's, and all of these kind of managers, when they're in the big kind of club at the moment and they're kind of learning on the job, And in this
Yeah.
kind of day and age, you don't really have, like we're touching on, you don't have that time to learn on the job
Yeah.
now. You got to really develop. And I think with Frank Lampard's got some benefit from Derby County because he was he managed them to a good standard, got them in the playoffs, I think, as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you can see he's got a bit more stature to it. Obviously, with the Chelsea
Yeah.
situation, Chelsea are just fast to chop everybody anyway. So
Yeah.
with him, I wouldn't say that he needed to look into it too much. I think with Everton are a club that financially don't spend huge
Yeah.
amounts of money in recent years due to financial fair play and stuff like that. So he's had to
Yeah.
manage with certain players and on a budget. And you do gotta learn because,
Yeah.
for example, I'm telling you now, Unai Emery, this guy here, has got a very good pedigree. He's won loads of European trophies. He's been called up by the likes of PSG, Arsenal. He's got stature to him. When he comes into this Villa side now, I guarantee you are going to see an experienced manager in the way that they play, in certain decisions, in certain outcomes in games where they might need to sit back and keep the draw. Where with Gerrard, he's fresh. You get me? He's this. There's a lot of pressure that comes with a Premier League side. Doesn't matter if it's fucking Nottingham Forest or if it's
Mm-hmm.
Man City. The pressure is just different, and if you're not ready for that pressure, bro, it can turn on its head really quick.
Yeah. I think you say, speaking about Unai Emery there as well, it made me think about something else in the whole manager thing, which is that I imagine that owners and clubs often have to make the decision between appointing a manager that is a long-term decision and then having to appoint a manager which is going to do what we need them to do right now. So either in this season or in the next 2 seasons, the next 3 seasons. And a lot of clubs are having to balance that. And this is something I was thinking of earlier when we first started the conversation, is depending on where you are in the league, how you assess and decide on managers is kind of, it has to be done differently, because in some ways there's more at stake for the clubs at the bottom of the league than there is higher up the league. Because if you're a Nottingham Forest who's fought for years and years and years to get back in the Premier League, spent beyond your means, if you go down again this season, it can be debilitating. You might not make it back into the Premier League for another 20 years. That can happen. Whereas Chelsea, if you gamble on Graham Potter and you have 2 bad years and you don't win anything and you fall out the champ, like United have had 10 bad years of bad managers and bad performances, and they were still, because of who they are and how established they were, and because of the fact that they were probably never going to get relegated, they continue to get another bite at the apple. Whereas some of these teams lower down in the league, you look at Leeds. I thought it was really harsh when Leeds sacked Bielsa, because I thought that he had done amazing things there. But Leeds fans were telling me that his style of play, it had been figured out, and they were just losing all the time, and they were going to get relegated under him. So they brought in, Marsh, who's kind of high fitness, high energy American kind of approach to the
He's
game.
very fiery, ain't he?
Very fiery side. And that was what they needed at that time to get them over the line and get them safe again. But now we're seeing
Took him
with
to the
them that
last day, the
it took them
last
to the
day they did
last
it.
day. And now you're looking at him this season and you're thinking, that looks like it's fizzling out, and they're probably going to have to replace him again. So even these teams at the bottom end of the table, in the same way that Chelsea used to fly through managers chasing a title or chasing a cup, some of these teams at the bottom end of the table fly through managers chasing survival. If shit starts to hit the fan, we'll try to switch the managers out and we'll get a bounce. And in fairness, at the bottom end of the table, we've seen that work quite well for a number of clubs this year. I mean, you look at Bournemouth. They had a terrible start to the season under Parker. They sacked him, brought in this person that none of us had really ever heard of, or promoted this person none of us had heard of, and they went on a whatever it was 10-game winning streak and moved up to midway through the table. There's another who else has sacked the manager this season? There's another team I'm forgetting about that have sacked the manager and done really well since.
Yo, bro, I can't keep up to date with how
I
many
can't
men are
think.
getting sacked
I
these
can't.
days, bro.
I
I'm
know.
telling you.
Can't think
Back
off
in
the
the
top of
day
my
when we
head.
were growing up, bro, if one person got sacked, it
Yeah.
was news for about a week.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I mean, with Arteta, it's an interesting one because, and I guess the question is for owners is, when do you stick and when do you twist? Or I think all
Yeah.
of these owners in an ideal world, or at least most of them, I assume, want a process. What is it you guys call it at Arsenal? The process, the progress,
I don't want to hear
the
about it.
project.
The
What's it called though?
process. The
The process.
process.
Yeah. So I think most of these owners want some version of that. They want someone in an ideal world that's going to come in and a director of football and a team of scouts and a manager that can all work together and build something over a 5 to 10 year period that can take their club from here to here or from here to here. Do you know what I mean?
It's like, the perfect example of it as well. Sorry to cut you,
No,
Bish,
go
while
on.
we're on it, and it slips my mind because I'm like that.
Yeah.
David Moyes at West Ham's a perfect example of it. He's only going to get them to a certain standard, but he's not then going to push them to competing for a league. You get me?
Yeah.
And he was exactly the same at Everton as well. He's that manager that if you need to get you to get on the cusp of top four or challenge for just on for Europe, he's that kind of manager. In it, I agree. You got the managers now. I mean, sorry, not the managers. The owners now have to differentiate which person that they want to or can see them get them to the top, or do they want them to be in and around the conversation? I think you bang on with that.
And knowing what their process is, I mean, the West Ham owners and the West Ham structure might have said, look, we've got this amazing stadium, new stadium. We're based in East London, in the capital of the city. We're the biggest club in the east of London. We've got all of the foundations to be a massive club and a big economic force in this league. And they might have said, look, if we can, our process is if in the next 5, 7, 8, 9 years under Moyes, we establish ourselves as a club that is every season top 7, top 6, top 5, top 5, top 6, top 5, there and thereabouts, then after however many years of that, we'll be cemented at that place. And then we can start to be a bit more risky. We can start to spend more money and try and invest to go for Champions League or to go for the title. We can get, a foreign manager in, a Conte, and someone that's not going to be there for years, but we can get them in and go for it. But they might have said that their process is we need to establish ourselves as someone who's going to be in that top 6 pretty much every season. And if they thought that, they might have thought David Moyes is the guy for that, because he's been there and done it before.
Perfect, bro. That is bang on what you're saying there, because they went for the likes of Pellegrini, and Pellegrini's he wasn't that guy to get him in and around that. Pellegrini's that guy to kind of to push you to a title like he did with City.
Exactly.
Yeah. But him coming in at a team like that and without having that kind of financial money to spend as well, because at that time West Ham weren't really spending that much money or whatnot. You're seeing the difference now. You're seeing David Moyes getting the best out of players because that's something that he specialises in. Bang on, bro, what you're saying, 100%.
Ancelotti at Everton, it didn't work out. Benitez at Everton, it didn't work out. There's definitely the right owner for the right time and for the right process. And I think when owners have to ask the question, do I stick or do I twist with this manager? I think part of that question, and this again comes back to something you said earlier, has to be, even if the results aren't going in your favor, are we seeing some kind of progress? Are we seeing some kind of evolution? Does it look like there's a style of play that's starting to be established? Are we putting in really good performances, but we're just not quite getting over the line? Have we gone from being really leaky at the back to being solid at the back, but we're still just losing games by 1 when we were losing them by 4? If there's some sign of progress, which I think probably the Everton ownership are seeing with Lampard, then that I think often will be enough to let the owners say, look, let's trust the process. With Arteta, they had a bad few seasons with him at first, but there must have been a mix of them seeing some kind of progress somewhere, and then also there being some trust that this guy and his team around him have learned enough from Pep and know and has enough in there that he can deliver eventually, that he can grow, that he's got the room to grow and be someone that can do what he's doing today. So that's the hard choice. And I think for Gerrard with Villa, it was hard for me to see how he was going to continue to grow and evolve as a manager without going and doing what Arteta did with Pep. That's all I'm saying he should go and do with Klopp, is go and do what Arteta did with Pep. Go and sit next to someone and look over their shoulder in a Champions League semi-final when they're trying to figure out what to do 1-0 down against Inter Milan. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely, bro. And I feel like as well, just to touch on, Patrick Vieira deserves massive credit, bro, because he's a prime example of what I was kind of talking about in developing yourself, because he went over to America with New York. You get me?
Yeah.
I think he was started off with City's academy or
City's
something.
academy was a huge part of City's academy and was
Went
there.
over
Yeah.
to the New York, then he went over
Yeah.
to Nice in France, a country that he
Yeah.
knew to understand and develop. And then he came to the Premier League because he knows what the Premier League's all about. He's been there before. And the
Yeah.
transition from that boring Palace side that Roy Hodgson had,
Oh,
for 5-6 years, bro, within one season, bro, we brought in a few players and he changed the whole style of that team right from
what a
the top
side.
to bottom, man.
How great they are to watch. And it's
Good
exciting to
team.
see if he has another 2-3 years and can establish that Crystal Palace team as a solid top 10 side and then gets a go at a top club. It'll be great to see what he can
Yeah.
achieve.
I
I
won't
think
be
if
surprised in years to come Arsenal
if
go for
I
Patrick
think
Vieira.
I think I think if Arteta flops it anytime in the coming years, and if the stars align where when Arteta's on the out, Vieira has established himself and proven that
Yeah.
he's ready for something on that level, then I think they'll go for it. Has my camera just crashed?
Yeah, camera's just done a mad thing. But yeah, just whilst you're sorting your camera out, I just want to just touch on that as well. Yeah, I think with the Patrick Vieira thing, I think you're right. I think the stars have got to align. He's got to also prove that he can keep this Palace team overachieving. You get me? Because if you can keep overachieving, then you've got all the backing you're going to need. You get me? The Arsenal fans, first of all, love Patrick Vieira. Just imagine Patrick Vieira in the dugout at Arsenal. They wouldn't want him there if he's not good enough. You get me? But what he's doing right now is second to none, bro. Like the guy is absolutely unbelievable, and he's bringing the best out of the players like Eze. That I don't know if I pronounced his name right. Is it Schler? I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name wrong. I think I might have just butchered his name. Yeah, but even like the centre backs, Mitchell, he's getting the best out of these young players as well, and he's got a proper clear style of play. You get me? Where the play is high intensity, high press. You get me, bro? These man went to the Etihad this season, and they were 2-0 up.
Yep.
How many teams or how many people do you see doing that?
No, and they
Very
played well.
rarely.
And they played well as well. Sorry, my camera just died, so we've had to
I know,
adapt
bro.
on the fly. Well, we might as well use that for you can still hear me, okay? All right.
Yeah. Everything's cool.
Maybe we should use that as a moment to just transition now onto our last topic of the day, which is going a bit of a different direction. It was a really interesting article that I had read that I'd sent over to you in the WhatsApp about this new content and this new technology that they're going to be bringing into, I think, BT Sport in particular later this season. I don't know if have we got the tab there? We've got the tab here. So they've signed a deal with Genius Sports, who I assume are some kind of tech company, that are going to give that is going to allow fans that are watching on BT Sport the option to select this different mode that shows all of these kind of different graphics on the screen about, as you can see in this example, it's showing players in underload. I think there's another clip somewhere else of the different options of what they've got and stuff like that. And one, I just wanted to ask, what your feeling is about this, but also how do you feel like, and this is a good question for us actually, as people who are fans that are in this space talking about football. Do you feel like fans' knowledge of football and understanding of football and the level of football IQ of the average fan is growing and developing? Because I think growing up, not only was stuff like this not available for us to see and learn from, but a lot of fans, I don't think were savvy enough about the game that they could have watched this and made sense of it or wanted to see it. Whereas I feel like increasingly there's a lot of fans today, me and you, I know, would be watching that and seeing all of that information on the screen and would be being able to do a pretty good job of processing it and trying to make sense of it and get an understanding for what's going on. Do you feel like the position of the fan and the place of the fan is changing? And do you think fans are getting more expertise in understanding the game?
No, most definitely, bro. We've seen it with VAR coming in. You get me? As whether you agree with it or not, it is a development of the game. The one thing about us football fans is we don't really like change. especially the old school football fans. But personally, myself, when I'm watching football, I watch football with my eyes. I also believe that a lot of stats and XG and all of this is all unnecessary. You get me? You can see with your eyes being a proper footballing man, whether they've played well, whether they haven't played well. What this
Yeah,
is going to enable you to do is basically get get a bit more understanding of the technical side of it, like you just touched on. And I
yeah,
do agree with you. I do think today's fan is a lot more technical than 10, 15 years ago, bro. Not even so long ago. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? But whether I'll be watching the game with all of that on, bro, that's a mad thing. You get me? I don't
It's
think
a
I'll
lot
be.
to
I don't
deal
think
with.
my eyes can just deal with it. You get me? I
No.
enjoy the game as it is. I'm not trying to watch
Yeah,
stats on the pitch. You get me?
yeah.
Like I'll just
Especially
look at
in
all
real
of that
time.
afterwards. Yeah,
Especially in real time. So it's like you're trying to figure out, and it might be frustrating as well. Because even if you eyes did learn how to figure it out, now if you're seeing that flipping, you know, that Saka is in 7.5 yards of space on the far side and has got a 3.5% chance, you're going to be screaming at the telly for them to pass it because you're seeing
yeah,
some shit with some AI goggles that the players on the pitch aren't even seeing. But it is interesting. It gives us an insight as fans as well into the level of data and stats that must go into the other side of the game. Like players today, I'm sure, are having to watch the tape, are having to understand all of this data and how it
mm,
pertains to them and their position on the pitch. And I do think it's an interesting time. I know on one of the previous streams, when we jumped on late at night after the Tottenham United game, I touched briefly on Amazon's introduction into the game and the fact that now we have games on Amazon Prime,
mm,
and there was a feature that Amazon Prime had on when I was watching last week where you could select a setting where it was kind of like Sky Sports News. So it was like you
yeah,
had this, but then it was showing the games, but it would change between the games. So it wasn't just showing the highlights like it used to on Sky Sports News. It's showing the live Tottenham United game or whatever, and then when something else is going on in another game, it would jump over and then show you the other game for about 10 minutes and jump over. It was a really different viewing experience that I hadn't experienced before, and it is an
it's going to
interesting
be.
seeing how it's changing the space.
It is going to be interesting because the things that I would like to see is like how hard the players have had a shot or how fast Kyle Walker's ran from the halfway line back, what miles
Yeah,
per hour he's got to. I think
yeah,
certain stuff like that would be good. But I think just if we're watching the TV and we've got if it's looking a bit mad, you get me, with stats
yeah,
everywhere,
yeah.
like at
Well,
what part are
apparently
you going
that's
to
what it
enjoy
says.
the game fully?
I think apparently that was when I was just having a little skim through the article. Then both of those things you just said were two of the things that it said would be in there. So it said it would show you the speed next to a player when they're
What was
running to
it?
tell you how fast they're running. So
Okay.
obviously you should have been involved in designing this stuff. But
Yo,
I
bro,
agree with
could
you.
have.
You don't want too much content coming at you. Just while we're on that, I heard somebody not long ago, I forget who it was, saying that eventually Sky Sports, BT, whoever it is that has the viewing rights, is gonna have to open up the door a little bit to live streamers with the watch alongs, and they're gonna have to change it so that people have the option to watch the game with a live watch along running side by side because of the popularity of not just watch alongs but live streaming in general. You know, gaming
Mm.
and Twitch, and how, especially with this younger generation coming through, that's how they consume a lot of content. Is they're watching what's going on and they're watching someone
Speaking
live
about it.
reacting to it. And
Because the commentators are shit in this day and age, that's
yeah,
why.
and how do you feel about that? Would you like to see more options for you as a creator to be able to do a live watch along with the game running alongside you, or to be able to play clips back and talk through them and analyze them and show them? Is that something that you would like to
Yo,
see
bro, that
brought
would be
into the space?
unbelievable, man. If we could do something like that now, that'd be absolutely fantastic, bro. You got to think about it. Like just now, say we're doing a watch along now, we've got a third tab at the bottom of us, like when we've got another guest on, and it's
Yeah.
just showing the game that we're both discussing, and we can pause
Hmm.
it and pick players out. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Call players out for doing certain things. Pause it to see where the line is or where the mistake is, or if a goal's being given offside, to kind of analyze it ourselves, bro. I think that'd be brilliant if we could do something like that. What about
Yeah.
yourself?
Oh, I'd love to see it. I mean, it would be interesting to see. I'd love to see it. Selfishly, I would love to see it, and I'd love to be able to experience it for me and you and for our podcast and our space. I also feel like, would it saturate? It's not the right word, but would it be hard if every Tom, Dick, and Harry on YouTube and wherever had the game playing and them next to it? And would it just be too much of? Would it be spread? Everything be spread too thin? Or is that just how it should be? Democratize it where everyone has access. I think definitely there needs to be a situation where we have some kind of fair use, copyright fair use, to be able to at least look back at highlights and analyze highlights. Because at this point, one, we're the fans, so we're the ones that are pumping all of the fucking money into football in anyway. But
100%.
Fans, that's what we've always done. We've talked about the result or the decision or whatever from yesterday, and I think even if they're not willing and ready to let us show the game live and be live commentators or whatever, because I understand it gets techie, who's going to watch it on Sky Sports if you've got a million other places to watch it. But I definitely think they open up the space for us as fans. The technology, the world has evolved. So whereas we would have spoke about it in the pub back in the day with a newspaper in front of us, now we're live on the stream talking as a community about that goal or that decision. We need to get to the point where we can be showing that and discussing it and talking about it. There's all of these apps and all of these, YouTube and all the rest of them give you the option to remix and flip in sample videos when it's made by another content creator. If you put something on Instagram, anyone else scrolling through Instagram has the option to put your thing side by side with theirs and do some remixing. So they don't mind when it's all of us that's creating content. They don't mind people taking that and reacting to it. But then when it's this content that's owned by the big companies, by the Sky Sports, by the BT Sports, they don't want to let us have a sniff. So I'd like to see that change.
Definitely. Like you said, bro, the key factor is we pump the money into it. If it weren't for us and watching these kind of programs and paying for Sky Sports and all that, it's a mad thing, innit? It's all gone, innit? The fans are the heartbeat. The fans should be able to. I'm not saying we can stream it live, but definitely highlights is something that we should definitely be able to do. Because I understand at the end of the day they got to make their money, and if everyone can watch it everywhere at the same time, why are they going to watch it on their channel? So what are they actually paying for? You get me? However, once the game's done, it's very rare you see Sky putting up highlights or people putting up highlights like that. Yeah, they might do just the highlights reel off the goal and post it on YouTube so they can get paid from that. But why can't we then go ahead and use it?
Or why not? I'm sure they've got the tech to do it. Why not integrate it where me and you can react to a Sky Sports YouTube channel video? So, like when Sky Sports Football puts up the highlights from the City Brighton game, have it where we have the option as creators to embed that in our video, where the people that are watching our video can see that highlight, but they can see what YouTube it's from. And if they click on it, it'll take them to Sky Sports or something. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like, it doesn't have to be that you're letting us just take the content and put it on our channel, but why are they not giving us the option to collaborate with this content that's already on YouTube anyway? Do you know what I mean? It's only going to push traffic that way. So YouTube, man, if you're listening, which I'm sure you're not, because there's a billion people on here right now, let us know. Or me and you are going to have to go down the rabbit hole and find out what do we need to do to be able to create that kind of content. Do we have to do something different with copyright? Do we have to find another streaming service where we can do extra content for people to lock in? Because I think that's something that people would like to see. But am I wrong?
Definitely, man.
If it is something you'd like to see, let us know in the comments. Subscribe, hit the bell, hit the like, hit the share, all that good stuff that we didn't say at the start of the video. Please do all of that. Myself, I've just started my own YouTube channel, The City Zone. We're going to put the link to that in the bio. I haven't uploaded anything yet, so they've got me on the YouTube dark web, so sometimes it's a bit hard to find. So we're going to put the link underneath, but content's going to be coming soon, so please do check for that. Go over there, subscribe, support, all of that good stuff. And yeah, man.
And make sure you do, people. It's absolutely free, you get me? And let me tell you now, there's not that many people out here with that man's brain over there. I'm telling you now for a fact.
That's why the head's so big. It has to store all of the brain cells in there.
Just straight A student, A-star student over there. I could tell you first-hand.
Straight A's.
I was getting into trouble and he was in the top sets.
Yeah. Yeah, man. We were lemon and lime was too, but that's why we work so well.
Honestly, bro, I'm telling you now, Tom.
Day one.
even since the moment that you've started Premier League Unpacked to come onto this space without really doing live streaming and that, bro, you've just took it with both hands and you've ran with it. And honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you coming on every single week and
Oh
adding this
man.
quality to my channel, bro. So big up to
I
yourself.
appreciate you. I'm just Arteta and you're Pep. I'm just trying to peak game before I get my big move to Arsenal where I can go and put it in play. Like I say, I don't want to be Gerrard. You know what I mean? Just start my own channel. I need to learn from the GOAT. So I'm here with you. I'm appreciating the opportunity to be here. I'm appreciating all the energy and the battery that you put in my back. And I appreciate all you guys locked in, man. The Premier League Unpacked family. It's really starting to become that. 26 episodes in, we're starting to become, you know, a community. I'm starting to recognize names and people in the comments. You know, we're, like I say, we're 26 episodes down. We'll blink and we'll be at 50. We'll blink again and we'll be at 100. And whilst I'm excited for us to keep growing the channel, so please, like I said, do share it, copy the link, send it in your WhatsApp to your mates or whoever. But that being said, you know, these people that have been here from the start, those names that have been active in the chat, that have been logging in from episode 4, 5, 10, 20, 26, they're being logged in the mind, you know what I mean? We're aware of the people that have been here
100.
from the start. So we love you. We appreciate you. Keep pushing the thing. You know, we're going to do this. We're going to do it big for all of us, you know, and we've got big plans for the future that involve the whole community. So, yeah, man.
Now, big up to yourself, bro. And just
Let's
before we
go.
wrap it up as well, I just want to say, like I said, Tom, appreciate you. Appreciate everybody in the chat. And make sure you
Yeah.
smash a like on this video, people, because if you don't smash a like, it's not going to help us with it getting pushed out.
Yeah.
So make sure you smash a like, people. But peace and love, and we'll see
Hashtag
you
does
on the next one.
hashtag there's only one Premier League Unpacked in the comments below. That's what I like to see. We love you. Peace.
My
Bless.
G.